Hello students, we are going to continue with the Cournot model. If you remember, Cournot model is a duopoly model, two firms in an oligopoly market where each firm makes a decision about their production level based on what they expect their competitor will produce. Okay, so the quantity of firm 1 or Q1 is dependent on what is the expected level of Q2. Okay, so we have seen that these combinations or these quantities that firm 1 decides upon can be drawn into a reaction curve. Okay, as you can see just now, the points that we obtained, we can plot them on a line, on a linear line, and that is firm 1's reaction curve. And we can do the same for firm 2 and develop a firm 2's reaction curve. The intersection between the two will be the Cournot equilibrium. Okay, this is the intersection. All right. Now let's look at the mathematical illustration for this model. We have a market where the demand is P equals to 30 minus Q. And to keep things simple, we say that both firms have an identical MC and that MC is set at 0. Okay, so from the perspective of firm 1, we find out their revenue, firm 1 is P times Q1, which is the revenue that firm 1 will be able to receive from producing its own output, yeah, Q1. So 30 minus Q, P times Q1, which you need to expand, 30 minus Q1 plus Q2, and all of this multiply with Q1. Alright, then this will give us 30 Q1 minus Q1 squared minus Q1 Q2. Okay, so this is R1. And then from R1, you can find the first difference, the partial derivative with respect to Q1, and that is based on R1 just now. We have 30, yeah, and then this one will be 2Q1, and partial derivative of that will be minus Q2. Okay, setting the equilibrium, now setting the equilibrium means MR must equals to MC, and since MC is 0, so our MR equation can also be set to 0. So 30 minus 2Q1 minus Q2. Then 2Q1 on the left, Q1 will be 15 minus half of Q2. Alright, so this is actually the reaction curves equation. And you can do the same for firm 2. Yeah, from the perspective of firm 2, you can develop all this and you will end up with their firm 2's reaction curve, yeah, which has a similar structure because of their identical size and cost nature, cost structure. Okay, so we've seen the Cournot equilibrium to be the intersection between the two reaction curves. So Q1 is equals to Q2. Okay, the equilibrium condition will be Q1 equals to Q2, and let's say we take one of them, Q1, 15 minus half of Q1, because Q1 equals to Q2, right? So you can get 3 over 2 Q1 equals to 15, Q1 equals to 10. And since Q1 equals to 10, Q2 is also equals to 10. So I'm using one of the reaction curve to, I substitute Q1, substitute Q2 into Q1, try to solve them, and then use that to come back to this condition for equilibrium. And the quantity produced now, since Q1 is 10, Q2 is 10, total quantity will be 20. Okay. Now that is when that's an example of a situation where the two firms in the duopoly are not cooperating with each other. But what if they cooperate with each other and therefore they agree to act as one firm instead of a competing competitors, two firms in the market? What if they collude? What if they agree to act as a single firm and therefore face the market as a monopoly? Okay, so the total revenue of the two firms, acting as one, will be PQ, which is 30 minus Q times Q. So it's very straightforward. And the MR from here is 30 minus 2Q. Okay, they are acting as one. So total profit can be maximized where 30 minus 2Q, which is the MR, set to equal to MC, and MC equals to 0. So 2Q equals to 30, Q equals to 15. Okay, and in a collusion, and since the two firms are of equal size, so they don't have any extra bargaining power over each other, we assume that the firms agree to share profits equally. Okay, therefore the 15, this output just now, is to be divided between the two firms equally. So Q1 equals to Q2 7.5. Okay. Alright, so you have your Cournot equilibrium just now. If you remember, what's the Cournot equilibrium? Cournot equilibrium is 10 and 10, right? But the collusion equilibrium is 7.5 and 7.5. Okay? Okay, 7.5 and 7.5. All right, the next model is the Zuckerberg model, which is a duopoly, meaning there are two firms, but in this case, one firm will act first, and the other firm acts later. That means there's a sequence. Yeah, they decide on their production level in a sequence. For whatever reason, firm one has the ability to start production first, and firm 2 was not ready by that time. So firm 1 has decided X amount. Firm 2 will have to strategically decide what is their amount if firm 1 is producing that X amount. Okay, so there's still strategic decision making based on what they know of the other firm. So same market demand curve, same MCs, same reaction curve. Now let's look at the firm 1's revenue. Okay, firm 1's revenue is 30 Q1 minus Q2, which is the same as just now. We are just bringing this back. Okay, and we will expand now to show that to replace Q2 here. Okay, so 30 Q1 minus Q1 squared minus 15 Q1 plus half of Q1, yeah, because we know that this is how you replace Q2. Sorry, no, 15 minus half of Q1. So when you can open this. Okay, so and that will give us 30 Q1 minus Q1 squared minus 15 Q1 plus half of Q1 squared. Okay, and simplify further, so you have 15 Q1 minus half of Q1 squared. Okay, so that is the R. And from the R1, you will find MR to be 15 minus Q, yeah, from here. Okay, and setting MR equals to MC. So MR equals to MC equals to 0. So 15 minus Q1 equals to 0. Q1 will be 15. Okay, so if firm 1 gives 15, now we go to firm 2. Firm 2 reaction curve is this one. So if Q1 is 15, then you can solve for Q2, 15 minus half of 15. So 15 minus 7.5, Q2 will be 7.5. So you see, the company or the firm that is able to decide first will produce twice as much, or at least definitely higher than what the other firms will be able to produce, yeah, because this is what we call the first mover advantage. Yeah, going first gives firm 1 an advantage. We call this first mover advantage. Now I'm going to stop here, and we will continue with models on price setting strategy. All these two models just now, the Stackelberg and the Cournot model, are essentially quantity setting strategy, right? They decide Q1 and Q2. So the next models that we're going to explore in other videos will be on, the next video will be on price setting strategies of an oligopoly firm. Okay, bye-bye.